J1, nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And, okay. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got pickles, buddy. John Hudson, how's your Stetson tonight? Let us know. The gorgeous Marie in L.A., Night Gazer. Kingsworth, how are you doing? Welcome to our chat room for the first time. How are you? And the gorgeous Jenny is here. And scrolling up. And who else? I know. J1, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate it. It's a great way to do what we do on this show by having help from you guys. Really appreciate it. The super chat is open. And, of course, it's a great way to support this show. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell as well. Ed Clater, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate it, Ed. Thank you so much. Hello, gorgeous Michelle C. How are you? Moocher from Georgia down on Twitch. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Magic Maiden, good to have you here. 11, nice to see you. Rob Aggs, welcome to the chat room tonight. And the gorgeous Kara McIver has arrived, everyone. Give her a wave, everyone. Alan Hold, good to see you. And we're going to rock and roll in 5 seconds here. Hi, Bill Romanos. Welcome to our channel. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. You are in for a treat tonight. In my opinion, we have one of the top researchers in North America when it comes to everything strange and unknown. Timothy Renner has written articles for several publications, including Morbid Curiosity, Weird USA, and Weird Pennsylvania. His illustrations have appeared in fanzines, comics, magazines, books, and on many record covers. He plays and sings folk music with his band Stone Breath. To date, they have released 12 full-length albums and multiple EPs. He has studied various paranormal phenomena in the south central Pennsylvania area with a particular focus on the legend of Toad Road and the 7 Gates to Hell. If you want to check out his website, do it. strangefamiliars.com. Timothy Renner. It's always a pleasure to have a man of your stature on this show, my friend. How you been doing?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me back.
I got to ask you, you sick of UFOs yet?
No, because I don't follow it that closely. I kind of keep my ear to the wind a little bit and pick up a little bit about what's going on, but I don't follow the. I know what's happening. I know all what's going on, but I don't follow it too closely.
Tim, I want to ask you, okay, for a guy who has been doing this a long time and a guy who has, put your life's work into this along with music, and I know you're a very dedicated family man. For our audience who doesn't really maybe know you, because, we do have a lot of people listening in on terrestrial radio who are just getting familiar with people in this field. Why did you choose this path to follow so closely and uniquely?
I didn't choose the paranormal life. It chose me. I was always interested in folklore. And some people in this field, when you say folklore, they kind of use it as a dirty word. They go, it's just folklore. Folklore is, what our ancestors handed down to us that talked about this weird kind of paranormal stuff. What we call, aliens and Bigfoot today, they probably called fairies and trolls back then. It's just different names for a lot of the same things. So I was always really interested in folklore and ghost stories and this and that, and couldn't get enough of it as a kid. I didn't know it was called folklore at the time to me. They were just ghost stories and monster stories and stuff. So I was pretty obsessive about it and grew away from it, when I went to high school and found girls and got interested in music and other things. But it was always kind of there in the background, calling to me. And then, boy, I've been lucky enough since writing my first book that this is how I make my living, and I'm very, very lucky. I'm a very lucky man because I get to do what I love every day.
Very few people on this planet get to actually have a career in the paranormal, and there's so many out there who have tried and say there's no money in this field, there's no way you can make a living off of it. How do you do it?
Well, I lived as an artist and a musician before, so I know how to live on very little. So yeah, there's not a ton of money in it, but there's enough for me to get by, and I have a roof, and my family is well fed, so I can't complain. I don't know that there's a magical formula. I do know you have to treat it like a job. I get up every day and I work, and I work until I go to sleep. But like I said, it's something I love to do, so it doesn't hurt.
A lot of people have never had an opportunity, Tim, to choose the career that they want. You chose this career, it chose you. For you, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I'd like to think I'd be drawing comics or illustrating books, but that's a field that's just as hard that's a nut that's just as hard to crack, I think. Before this, I worked, as a ditch digger and electrician and telephone man and a whole bunch of jobs that I hope to never have to do again. But probably I'd be doing something like that.
All right, let's get into it. I know you're not the biggest UFO fan, and you've kind of gone the opposite way as the public support has in regards to UFOs with everything that's kind of going on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on UFOs tonight because I think, it's been overburdened and overbearing, and frankly, I need some monster talk, man.
Right on.
I need some serious monster talk tonight. And so, but I want to get an overview from you on what you think is going on over the last couple of weeks. I mean, the DNI brings out their preliminary report. Now we have new videos coming out, like with Jeremy Corbell today, which to me, I'm not a fan of this video. It does not look like UFOs to me, but that's just to my untrained eye. When you look at the entire subject right now from an outsider's perspective, A, what do you think is going on? And B, are you liking what you're seeing?
So I'll start with the caveat that I am generally mistrusting of governments, all governments. So when people look to the government for answers, I'm immediately kind of suspicious. You can't fill potholes, you can't fix the roads and the bridges, and you're going to tell me what UFOs are. In general, my advice to people is do not wait for any authority to give you permission to believe in this stuff, because it's there, it's real, you know it, I know it, it's out there. So we don't have to wait for any authority to give us permission. I don't think they have any real answers. My guess is that the government is either knows or is afraid that some of this tech is, China or Russia, and they're trying to crowdsource sightings to see where it's popping up. They want to know. And, if every American's got their eyes on the skies, and they say, we saw them here, we saw them there, they can kind of get a better idea where these things are popping up. But I absolutely could be wrong.
Do you want disclosure? Are we ready for it?
I don't know. It really depends on what form that takes, because, are they going to say it's little scientists from other planets? Or are they going to say it's something weird or and other, which I think it might be. Can people wrap their heads around that? I think maybe the public can wrap their heads around, there are people from other planets visiting, but the idea of something completely other, I think is it's a hard pill to swallow, I think, for a lot of people.
See, I don't think we're ready. I don't think this planet is ready. I don't think that anybody is ready, maybe outside of the UFO world, that is. Us on this time of the planet, or on this side of the conversation, we're all like, let's get this thing going, man. Let's take to the ballpark. Let's hit the diamond. Let's get this game going. But I don't think, when you look at it, I don't think that people understand the actual ramifications of everything that's going to come down from people on this planet who think we're dealing with demons, to the financial matters out of Wall Street and every nut bar in between who thinks that the aliens are coming to feed off of us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's there's a number of answers, and for every different answer, there's going to be a different reaction depending on the person. I absolutely agree. I think it could be opening a big can of worms there.
I agree with you. Timothy Renner is our guest tonight, and we're going to take it out of first gear, go into second, because it's time to start getting into some monster and paranormal stories. Now, you're a guy who has done a lot of work in a weird area of south central Pennsylvania. In fact, your whole state is screwed up like Ohio. I'm just going to tell you that. Ohio, Virginia, or West Virginia and Pennsylvania, I don't know what you guys got going on over there, but it's screwed up over there, man, and I mean that with respect.
It's a good place to live if you're into this stuff.
So for you, what's your favorite? What do you love to deal with?
Well, it's got to be Bigfoot. He's since I was a little kid, since I first saw that Patterson-Gimlin film on In Search Of, I guess it was. I've been hooked. I love the idea of it, and my thoughts on it have changed over time. But my love for it has not faded. I just love taking Bigfoot reports. I love, talking to witnesses.
Okay, so when you get a Bigfoot report, how do you know somebody's not messing with you?
Well, most of the time, I haven't run into that. I've run into what I call like the, lonely housewife kind of thing, where every crack outside the window is something. I've run into that before, and you have to be very kind, and yet somehow get the point across that no, Bigfoot is not hanging outside your apartment building. It's then again, maybe he is, but no, I've run into that where I think it's people that are just lonely and they want company and they want someone to talk to, and they maybe think things are going on that aren't going on. But I haven't run into what I feel is anybody just outright lying to me. I've had some people that I think are mistaken, and we might disagree on what they saw and what I think they saw and so forth. But I've never ran into anybody that was just like, that I felt was just like pulling my leg or just trying to hoax me. At least not in person. I've gotten phone calls, of course, of being like, yeah, I saw Bigfoot. He was, eating hot dogs at the, baseball stadium or whatever, But as far as meeting a witness in person, I've never had anybody that wanted to take the time to meet up and still wanted to pull a hoax or anything.
Now, for people who may not know, have you ever had an encounter with a Sasquatch?
I've had encounters with things in the woods that I cannot explain, but I never saw a big hairy creature yet. I kind of do hope to, but I have not yet seen a creature. So I don't know. I've seen eyes, or glowing eyes. I've had things thrown at me. I've had rocks thrown at me. I've heard things for sure. I've been woken up to wood knocks at 3:30 in the morning while I was camping, but I've never actually seen a creature.
So why go after it?
It is very, very addictive, and I do take breaks, and I have to get away from it for a while because I can get obsessive about it. But the feeling of being out there and encountering this unknown, this other, whatever it is so addictive and so powerful that I really can't imagine not doing it at this point.
It's addicting, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tim, I know, like, when me and my buddies, when we hop on our ATVs, or we hop on in our vehicles and we start driving those logging roads, it's that anticipation that anything around the corner could jump out. Like, I'll give you an example. Me and my buddies a couple weeks ago, we decided to go for a ride into the wilderness, and you never know what you could see. It was in the evening, and we come up on this bend, and there's this sharp corner. And all of a sudden, all of this dust, like a vehicle had just went around that corner, was up on the road. Now, the logging roads here are quite twisted and turny, so I mean, you're not going to get a lot of people doing like 30, 40, 50 miles an hour on these roads, gravel roads. And so we're like, oh, I didn't realize there was someone ahead. And so we kept going, and we go down this dip where there's a straightaway, and no vehicles. None. So now all of a sudden you can't go back because the smoke is gone, or the dust from the road is gone. But when you look there, you're now thinking, the amount of dust that was there, what big enough could have kicked that up? Obviously, in my area, a bear, black bear or grizzly bear. A cat wouldn't do it. Sasquatch could. A moose could. A wild horse could. But for the most part, you have to go through that process of elimination. And to me, that's the thrill about going into the forest where there's potential sightings, is you just don't know what you're going to see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And if, I'm a hiker and I have round the next corner syndrome, which, I can't get enough, and I always got to see, what's around that corner, what's around the next corner, what's around the next corner. So I have that going on, as well as, anything weird I'm looking for. I love the environment, and I'm always pressing on to try to get, see more and more and more, which it can be a problem if it's not a loop trail. If it's out and back, you got to, save enough gas in the tank to get home.
You got that right.
But those two things together are just, I love it. I love being out in the wild. I love, I just love it. I can't get enough of it, and I'll get depressed if I go too long without at least going out for a hike. It may not be out looking for Bigfoot or anything, but if I don't at least get in the woods a little bit, I'll get depressed.
How healing are the woods?
Forest bathing is a thing, and at least in Japanese culture, they will prescribe it for depressed people. They call it forest bathing. Get out in the woods, and I really, for me at least, it's absolutely true. I mourn the loss of the woods. If I'm not there for a period of time, it really hits me in a negative way. Even if I can get it in, I live in a small town, but there's a little woods that I can walk to, and if I can't get on a real hike, I can at least go to this little woods, and it's about a quarter mile trail through this little woods. Even if I can just do that much, it's so centering and so helpful, I think.
I always tell our listeners, and I'm not a tree hugger by any sense of the word, all right, but I will say this: the power of touching a tree and feeling that tree's energy, or hugging a tree and feeling that natural energy that a tree can give you, if you accept it, is pretty second to none.
If, I want to say this carefully. When I talk about gifting, don't leave food. Not for animals, not for Bigfoot, just don't do it. But I would recommend everybody find a sort of hidden place in the woods and set up a little gifting station. By this, I mean, leave rocks, leave little pieces of wood, natural things. Don't pollute. Don't put pieces of plastic. Little things you find in the woods, and see what happens. And I would be surprised if you don't get some results from that. Is it people coming along? Maybe. I don't think in my experience, most of the time that I've done this has been pretty out of the way, and things change and things get moved, and it's really quite thrilling. And is it Bigfoot? Is it forest spirits? What is it? I don't know what it is, but it's really, really entrancing, and it's this wonderful way, I think, to interact. But Don't do it by your house, and don't do it with food. Again, advice from folklore.
Very true. Very true. Tim, one of the reasons why I have a lot of respect for you is we got about 4.5 minutes before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, is you're somebody like a Grant Cameron or a David Weatherly, two gentlemen whom I extremely highly respect in their fields of research, who you take a path and you don't have any preset notions or beliefs or opinions going in, and you follow that path as far as you can potentially go. Why did you choose that way to do your research?
Well, I think I started out, maybe not doing that, and I was proven wrong so many times that after a while I went, okay, I have to readjust here and start with the place of I don't know, and then try to narrow down from there. Instead of, I'll just take Bigfoot, for instance. Instead of starting at the place where this is an undiscovered, primate in the woods, I'm going to start at the place where I don't know what it is, and then go from there. Because, like I said, I think I've been proven wrong, or at least proved to myself. There are people out there I know. There's flesh and blood Bigfoot people who genuinely believe this is a creature we can catch someday and put in the zoo or something. But for me, looking at the evidence that I've seen and the reports I've seen, I can't believe that anymore. And so I had to sort of reset and start back at that place where I don't know, and let me see if I can narrow it down from there. And a big way of doing that is to find the common ground in all these paranormal events. What are we seeing in ghost stories that are like Bigfoot stories? What are we seeing in UFO stories that are like ghost stories, et cetera, et cetera? And there's a lot across the board that's a lot similar. But, sadly, my answer for all this stuff is still I don't know. I can tell you.
But that's a fair answer, though, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's the only true answer. Beware of people who tell you absolutely they know what blank is as far as the paranormal goes. I need to see receipts.
Do you think... I'll save that question for when we get back from the break. But as you go down that path of I don't know... Why, for you, though, is it important to follow those paths as far as you can go?
It's just plain curiosity. And I was talking about some experiences on a podcast one time, and Mike Clellan, another author.
Good guy.
Yeah. Who his advice to me was, this is the first time I ever talked about my own experiences. I wrote a lot about other people's experiences, but I hadn't talked about my own. And Mike said something to me that night. He said, pull the strings, keep pulling. And I think it's good advice, because I think, you find a lot when you keep doing that. And so I don't know. I think it's a tenaciousness that I get maybe from the same thing that I was a record collector. I was had to have every record by this band I like. Couldn't get by with just one. Had to get all the records. So I don't know if it's that kind of compulsion to got to catch them all, or if it's something to do with research. But I know I never stop researching. Like my first book, I'm not done researching that. I published it, but I still collect stories and find new information on that. Who knows what I'll do with that, but I keep at it.
And I think that is something that needs to be commended, because so few researchers in this field will actually, Tim, take it there all the way. And I don't understand that line of thinking, and I'm not trying to, downplay anybody out there, but when you don't know what it is, you don't know what's going on, you don't even know it exists, it amazes me how many people have opinion and are searching opinion rather than the scientific or the folklorist side of everything.
Yeah, I mean, if you start at the place where ghosts are dead people and that's it, that's the answer. I mean, where are you going to go from there? Then everything that happens on a ghost hunt is a dead person doing it. That I don't start there. I start with, I don't know what's going on here. Let's start the place where, okay, we can agree that something weird's happening, and let's go from there.
Tim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. A very fast-paced show so far with our guest tonight, Timothy Renner, and his website, strangefamiliars.com, if you want to check it out. We're going to hit him up about skeptics next. Then in hour 2, We'll get into some of these weird stories that he has collected over his multiple years of research. We'll be back with Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear.
Should I be muting on those breaks?
Nah, you can hang out with me. I got you covered on the mute here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man. Full control. Full control.
You are multitasking with the chat and the YouTube and everything at once.
Well, the beautiful part about this StreamYard program that we use is I used to be bouncing between like 4 chat rooms at the same time, man, and I was always like flipping screen to screen to screen, and so I ever since I switched over to StreamYard, this has 3 chat rooms built into one.
Oh, wow.
So I've got Twitter, I've got Twitch, and I have YouTube all on here scrolling. Like if you go to the right of your screen, you'll see a little box that says comments.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, you'll get the entire chat.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right?
Maybe I don't want to read them.
Oh no, these people love you. Yogi,
Good.
Timothy and Dave going to jam tonight? No. Dave's not that good yet. Dave's not that good.
My fingers are still numb after my MS attack, so I'm not on stringed instruments yet.
Did you hit the live button? Yes, I did. I actually hit the live button tonight, Night Gazer. Thank you. Last night on my Spreaker feed, we were having an audio issue, and I forgot to hit the start button on the radio side last night. Yeah. Thank goodness we have archives. Boom to you, Bama. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Mike D for life. How are you? Welcome to the chat room again, my friend. And let's see, who am I missing here? Rooted in gorgeous sacredness has arrived. And I think I'm caught up. Well, we're at 150 people, 31 minutes in.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That number will rise. I think we'll hit 200 tonight. JC, what's happened? JC is asking, can you do your best Butch Witkowski impersonation? Weird Pennsylvania week on SOR.
I don't have a Butch impersonation. I love Butch, I'll tell you that.
Oh, he was on last night.
Yeah, somebody told me that. Laura told me that. Yeah. But I missed it because I'm too busy trying to put my own show together.
I hear you, man. That's okay. You're a busy guy. I'm surprised you're even doing this.
Well, when Spaced Out Radio calls,
oh fuck,
you must answer.
Oh fuck, pardon my language, but gee whiz. Only if the people on radio knew how poorly I spoke off the air. YJ Overlander, how's my fellow BC Jeeper doing? How you doing, man? Give you the Jeep wave. There you go. And Nate Foote, always a pleasure to have you here. Let's see here. Yeah, every time Butch comes on, I try to get him cranky because when he gets mad, I mean, the bombs that drop are incredible. Incredible.
I had my long running bandmate, his name is Predwin, and so it's a Welsh name though he is not Welsh, but he used to try to get me pissed off before every performance. And at one point, like I didn't realize what he was doing. He'd be like, hey, that person said this or that about, the band, or that person stole some merch, whatever it was. He'd try to get me irritated and pissed off before every performance. And at one point, I overheard him. He turned to my wife and he said, "He plays better when he's pissed off."
Oh man, that is a good story. That is a good story. I have my fan going in here. It's a little bit cooler than last night in here, which is nice.
Yeah, I can't believe the temperature's up there.
Oh man, it's terrible. And now we have the forest fire fog. Because south of me, about 90 minutes, there's a fire that's getting going, and I mean it won't reach us, but still we get to have the remnants of the smoke that come flying on up at night.
Oh, that plus the temperature, lovely.
Yeah. Aussie Steve, how you doing? How's tomorrow looking? The gorgeous Ange from Australia. How is tomorrow looking? Please give us an update on whether Tim and I are alive tomorrow or not.
If I am alive, I'd like some lottery numbers.
Yeah, me too, if you don't mind. All right, thank you to Andrew, Chad, Ed Clater, and J1 for the Super Chats. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Timothy Renner. StrangeFamiliars.com is his website, and in my opinion, Tim is one of the top researchers in North America when it comes to everything strange, weird, from Bigfoot to little gnomes and every ghost in between. Tim, welcome back.
Great to be here.
Oh, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. I want to ask you something here, because there's a lot of brilliant people in this field, and there's also a lot of people who give it a bad name. How do you rise above the rest in order to give yourself that desirability that everybody wants to wait for your next podcast, your next book, your next little feature on what you have on Bigfoot or gnomes or ghosts? How do you get to that credibility level?
I guess, be honest. Like I said, put your head down and work hard. And I try not to get into any of the squabbles, like, for instance, in the Bigfoot community and stuff. I try not to get into many of them unless I'm drawn in by direct assault. But otherwise, I try not to get into the drama. It's not about that for me.
I notice people like you, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and others. You guys all have social media profiles, but we never see you in the bitch fests. We never see you in the drama side of everything. We never see you going after people on whether or not they think Bigfoot is a monkey. How do you control your emotions to stay away from the drama side of this field?
I guess it's just that, no matter what people claim, the bottom line is they don't know either. So, someone can sit there and tell me, I know it's a relic hominid and for sure, people who say they see UFOs and Bigfoot at the same time are crazy and this and that. And to me, it doesn't get under my skin at all, because it's just like, well, you don't know. You can claim to know, but you don't know. If you knew that, we'd have the answers, and we don't. So it's kind of easy to stay out of it, because, that tends to be the most of the, I think, of the drama, when somebody claims they have the answers, or they claim they have something and they don't. And for me, I just, back up and say, well, you don't know. I don't know either, but you don't know.
I'm going to press you on this, because you sound quite politically correct. Your thoughts on skeptics, people who really deny that there is anything supernatural or paranormal or strange going on with any of these types of creatures or spirits.
Yeah, I think So I've been. This is going to be a long answer to a short question. Sorry, I've been in situations with people twice in my life. Interestingly enough, they were the same kind of person, the same kind of not super. I wouldn't say the super engaged or curious people. They were people that were kind of locked into their viewpoint, both of them, and not really open at all to any new viewpoints. But in these two situations, one of them, I was driving with this person, and I saw a mountain lion where there should not be a mountain lion in Maryland. Now, was this a natural creature or something else? It certainly appeared natural to me. We were driving, and I pointed out to him, and this is not something that's usual at all. It was right alongside the road. I said, "Look at that. That's a mountain lion. Look at that." And it was like he was in a trance. And he said, "Yeah," and just kept driving. He was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And I said, no, look at it. Look over there. Like, slow down and look at that. It's a mountain lion. Yeah. And he kept on driving. Another time, like I said, same sort of fellow. It wasn't the same guy. I was driving with the guy, and we popped up over a hill. This is in rural Pennsylvania, and it's about 4 a.m. I was doing drywall at the time. We had just done a drywall job late at night, and we're headed home. He was driving again, and this whole field was lit up. This whole farm field looked lit up like a stadium, and there was no source of the light that I could see. And I said to him, "Look over there, look at that." And it was the exact same kind of reaction as the other guy had. He was like he was in a trance, and he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "No, look at that, look at that." And he just kind of, again, "Yeah," and kept driving. So I wonder if it's not for certain people. And I almost feel sorry for them, because to me the world is full of wonder and magic in that sense, and things we can't explain. And I wonder if just certain people, it's not for them, and they're never going to see it. So I don't get mad necessarily, but I almost pity them when they refuse to believe in this stuff. Now, my wife is a skeptic, but I think I call her an honest skeptic, and she's been at paranormal conferences and stuff with me, and had people come up and tell us their stories. And more than once now, she said, I don't know what that guy saw, but he saw something. And that to me is like I call that honest skepticism. I'll accept that. Okay, that's if she's willing to go that far, I accept that answer. That she's saying he saw something, but she doesn't know what it was. So on that much we can agree. But yeah, so as far as people who just deny there's anything, I kind of just feel sorry for them.
You know what, though? There's a big difference between a skeptic and a non-believer. The non-believers will never be able to believe anything. You could bring a live Sasquatch in a cage right in front of them. It could reach out, tear off their arm, and start chewing on it, and they will still not believe that they just lost their arm to a Sasquatch. Now, yeah, I say that in jest, but there's a big difference between being skeptical and being just a crude non-believer.
Mm-hmm, sure, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of person who'd be like, "Yeah, I can't believe that mountain gorilla just tore my arm off," and it wouldn't matter. Yeah, I totally agree. There's some people who are, just strident non-believers, and you never change them. But again, I almost feel sorry for them, because you don't have to convince me that weird stuff is out there and weird stuff happens, and to me it makes the world a lot more interesting and wonderful.
Do you think it's to a disservice to the community? And I'll explain why. Because I think people over the last 10 years, since television really took off, that we go out of our way to be skeptical. We go out of our way to take great evidence and shred it apart, on social media especially. And I think it's a real disservice to the amount of information that is potentially out there that could be very convincing, or at least leading us down some paths to answers, and we don't even put it out there because the internet trolls and the skeptics and the non-believers are absolutely going to have a field day with it, dragging your name through mud.
Well, even in the community, it's considered like a pat on the back if you can debunk somebody's picture. If you can say, no, that's not that. That's this or that. It's a camera flare. It's not an orb. This or that or the other thing. And to me, it's like the Patterson-Gimlin film. You can find experts on both sides. It's something anomalous. It's a Bigfoot, or on the other side, oh no, it's a guy in a suit, and it kind of comes down to that. So you're going to get that. I don't know what to do about it, because there is a sort of people, like I said, people sort of pat themselves on the back when they can be that debunker, both within and without of the community.
See, I love that debate, the Patterson-Gimlin one. I love it because nobody brings up the boobs. Nobody brings up the boobs in that film. And for people who may not know, let's just be honest. I mean, people try and be skeptical of a 50-plus-year-old film by thinking in 2021 thoughts. Mm-hmm. They're not going back to that day and age, the financial situation that Patterson and Gimlin were in, the fact that there wasn't a lot of technical gear, the fact that it wasn't it was still a very conservative Christian society where you didn't just go say, hey, let's make a joke here and let's sew a pair of boobies on this outfit. You know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't thinking about that. Yet in 2021, people think about, how they would fake it. They're not looking for logic. And it's okay to be right. It's okay that this film is correct.
Well, costume technology at the time just wasn't there. That's a big one for me. And I read a bit about it in Where the Footprints End, Volume 2, in my chapter on disappearing evidence, because to me it's the ultimate representation of the Bigfoot phenomenon, because you can get people to line up on both sides. It's real, it's fake, it's real, it's fake. The interesting thing is the original film, no one knows where it is. There's people say it's in this film warehouse, or it's in this lawyer's office, but nobody really has it. Nobody knows where it is. If they had it, again, I'm not a film expert, but I believe they said if they had it, they could tell what speed it was filmed at. If they could tell what speed it was filmed at, they could tell whether the creature in the film was somewhere in the range of 6 feet or 7 feet. Now, 7 feet is still in normal human height, but it would really be weird to have a 7-foot tall guy out there in a hairy costume running around. Like, where'd you find that guy? So, it would be incredible if we had the original film, and we just don't. On the flip side of that, now I know he's come up with a costume recently, but the guy who claimed he was the guy in the suit, this Bob Hieronymus guy, for years he just couldn't produce the costume, and I don't think the costume he has is the costume in the film, but he's claiming it is. But for years and years, he claimed he had been the guy in the suit, and the costume was, left in his mother's attic. He left it in the trunk of a car, and it got sold or stolen or something. I don't know. So it was like the ultimate representation of the Bigfoot phenomenon, because here we have a guy who claimed he was the guy in the suit. He can't produce the suit. They can't produce the original film. Experts on both sides. It's real. It's fake. It's wonderful. It's just this ultimate representation of the entire Bigfoot phenomenon.
But you also look how it ruined Bob Gimlin's life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think anymore he's embraced it, and has kind of in his later years has kind of had this kind of renaissance and has been accepted, in the Bigfoot community. And I know he does a lot of conferences and stuff. And I've not met him, but I've heard him speak on radio shows and podcasts, and I know people that know him very well. And he seems like a wonderful guy. So great for him. But yeah, I know for years he was just kind of tormented by this film.
Well, and the fact is, he was so tormented that he finally came out a number of years ago and said, fine, it's fake. It's fake. We faked it all just to kind of try and get people off of his back, and the skeptics jumped all over that, saying, look, he's admitting it's fake. Like, what's he supposed to do? He's in a can't-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, where's the suit? Show me the suit and reproduce that film using 1967 technology, and then we can talk. Because to me, I mean, arm extensions, those are longer than human arms. Arm extensions in costumes, like Hollywood wasn't thinking that way back then. Planet of the Apes was the best they could do, and you know, looks pretty good given the time, but it's you know, they're not the Patty film.
Speaking of the Patty film, do you think the smoking gun evidence of Bigfoot or Dogman or even ghosts or aliens for that matter exists out there, and there's someone out there holding on to this film and they just do not release it because of the fear of public ridicule?
I think probably if somebody had a great film, they'd try to make money off of it. Honestly, I think if somebody had it, it would remain inconclusive. I think that's the nature of this phenomenon, as weird as it sounds. It's like we're never allowed to get true answers. Any physical evidence, blood, hair, scat, that people have collected, it's always inconclusive. You know, sure, you might get something will come back, you know, unknown primate or something on the first test, but you send it to a different lab and they say, oh no, that's just human. That's just human blood or whatever the case is. So there's something about this phenomenon that stays in that mysterious other zone where it's never quite defined. It's you know, the answers are never really that clear. And you know, it's kind of like I was talking with a frequent guest of mine. He's a Irish monk named Brother Richard, and we were talking about the Shroud of Turin, and he said, you know, it's a very similar thing. They test it one time, they get one result. They test it, you know, years later, they get a different result. And it's almost like it's intended to stay in this zone of you know, is it real or is it not? You know, there's this kind of zone of between belief and disbelief. And it seems like it's part of the nature of all this stuff, where it can't be defined.
Then what can we define? Like, if you had the smoking gun video of Bigfoot, would you release it?
Oh yeah. I subscribe to Strange Familiars, and I'll be showing this on our YouTube channel, and yeah, I would absolutely. I'd be surprised if. I think it would be torn apart. I think there would be experts, you know, again on both sides that would say, oh, you know, it's CGI or it's this or it's that. I think if I had some kind of definite DNA evidence, or maybe I had some definite hair or blood or evidence or something I was going to send to a DNA lab, I would be very, very surprised if it made it there at all. I think that a lot of this stuff goes missing in the mail, or it goes missing at the labs. If it was tested and then tested again, I wouldn't be surprised if it came up with two different results. It's the nature of this phenomenon is to be difficult and obscure.
Very true. Timothy Renner is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. For the skeptics out there, you know, I mean, one of the things, I got to mention this pet peeve to you. You ever notice that when you go on paranormal teams' websites and you check them out, I don't know if you do it for potential guests or whatever, but I go on and I'll look at it. And there's always the picture of the team skeptic who's standing there, arms closed, staring off adrift into, I'm staring at nothing, but look how serious I look. You know, do we really need a team skeptic on a Bigfoot team or a paranormal team when we should be skeptical in ourselves with everything that we see? We should always try to bring logic before we bring the woo in.
Yeah, and I try, you know, and I've certainly been mistaken before. So, like, you know, look at that. That's most recently I was at a place and we were having a lot of weird stuff happen, and then I caught some eye shine on a hill, and I thought, oh my gosh, look at that. Those are forward facing, and that's definitely not deer. And then kind of pursued it to the end, and it was that particular eye shine. Now there was other eye shine that night that weren't deer, but this particular eye shine on this particular hill ended up being deer, and you know, I was proven wrong. So, you know, we can all be mistaken. So it helps to have a person, I think, to check you, whether that's a skeptic or even just another person there who's willing to at least, like you said, be skeptical first, and then let's get to the bottom of it. And, you know, sometimes I'm that person for someone else. You know, hey, I heard a sound. No, buddy, that was just an owl, or whatever it is.
I get that, and I can appreciate that. But do we take the whole skepticism part a little too seriously?
Well, I think that's there's always this desire to be accepted by, mainstream science. We're going to prove something. And I think, if you have a team skeptic, a la Finding Bigfoot on TV, I'm sure that, that plays into it. If they did it on TV, we must do it on our team too. But, I think that's part of the bid to be accepted by mainstream science. That I don't care. I'm not trying to prove this to anybody. I don't care if mainstream science accepts me or not.
For you, it's about you?
It is about the sort of human journey with all this stuff, I guess, if you want to get that deep. This is about human experience, and this is part of the way the world interacts with us. I think we have we have the natural and we have the supernatural, and I think both react to us, and we are part of both in a way.
We have about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break. At the top of the hour, Timothy Renner is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Next hour, Tim, I want you to get into some stories because you've covered some wacky stories over your amount of time, doing Strange Familiars and writing books and everything that you've covered. For you, is it the stranger the better?
I think it's getting that way. When I started, I didn't want to hear about, Bigfoot disappearing, into a ball of light or a man in a clown suit getting out of a UFO or anything like that. But the more it goes on, I'm just like, give me the weird stuff.
What's weird to you?
Oh, the Bunny Man phenomenon, I'm very, very fascinated with that. We take a few stories. I haven't had any lately on the podcast, but for a while we were getting them where people were seeing what appears to be normal humans in bunny suits, but just in really, really weird places outside of Easter. So, a friend of mine saw one in the middle of a field waving to him as he drove by, and this was not at Easter. There's a guy sitting in a bunny suit in the middle of a field in rural Pennsylvania. And in getting the details of the story, he told me that the guy was illuminated from above, and it never occurred to him. I said, where was the illumination coming from if he was sitting in a field? And he got real quiet. He said, I never thought about that. I don't know. So there's these, they're just really weird, other instances of little people. I took one on the show of a little person dressed as a bunny. It was just really, really weird and focused in on the witness. And even though they were in a Walmart and just kind of focused right in on him and almost chased the person, it was very, very strange. So I really kind of like those. Are they just weird people in bunny outfits, or is it something else going on?
So you're telling me people have switched from these idiotic clown outfits to going to rabbits now?
If maybe. Maybe I don't know. These are a lot of these stories are from about 10 years ago or more. Some of them from people's childhood. So it doesn't seem to be like happening now. But I wouldn't be upset if it did because I love these Bunny Man stories.
Well, it can't be any worse than these idiots who are dressing in clown outfits going around trying to harm people.
Yeah, or make them just scare people. That's a good way to get hurt.
I'm still surprised there was nobody killed over that.
Yeah. I live in an area where people, open carry is a thing, and it's like I say to people, don't dress up as Bigfoot. You're going to get shot. Like, do not do it.
Well, there's a famous line in the filming of Sasquatch of Star Wars, where they had to tell the gentleman who played Chewbacca not to go wandering in the forests of Washington State because there was the potential of him being hunted and shot, thinking that they were going to kill a Sasquatch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing that. Yep.
Right. Tim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Timothy Renner is our guest tonight, and if you're not watching on YouTube, listening on the radio, you definitely got to check out his beautiful hair and beard and mustache combination. It's fantastic. He's shy to let the public know about it, but damn it, we are going to make that explode. That is absolutely for sure. But no, this is one of the best researchers around, if you ask me. Timothy Renner. His website is strangefamiliars.com. And when we come back, we're going to learn some strange stories from strange familiars and Timothy Renner. So we're going to turn up the woo in hour number 2 on Spaced Out Radio. I was drinking my iced tea, and I had this small little ice cube sneak down my throat, and it caused me to cough.
Oh.
And now I can't shake it. It's driving me nuts. Chad Smith, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Really appreciate that. Who else just came in? Oumuamua, good to see you. Instead of flying through the universe. Oli Tabuger, welcome to the show. No insulting of Axl Rose in this chat room, please. There's a few things we don't talk. We don't talk breakfast for dinner. We don't talk soccer. We don't talk Coldplay. And we don't talk about insulting the legendary Axl Rose. Oh, man, newbies. Got to break them in with the rules right off the bat. The Bushi says hot beard and stash do. There you go. All right. Watusis, how are you? Welcome to the chat room. And let's see here. We go from there. The gorgeous and talented Wendy Williams has arrived, everyone. There she is. There she is. Give her a wave. Radiohead, how are you? Welcome to our chat room. I don't get that one. Yeah, we don't squatch either, people. We don't squatch either. So, I'm just going to quickly run my dogs outside, Tim. I'm going to put your mic on mute, and I'll be right back, okay? All right. Be right back, people. Enjoy. right. We got about 1 minute, Tim. 1 minute.
Alrighty.
And then we'll come on back. Hello, Karam Nazar. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. For your first time here, we appreciate you, man. Axl Rose does not eat breakfast for dinner after playing soccer all day. He's too manly for that. Bombshell Bomber, how are you? Oh, who else came in here? Let's see here. Mystery News TV, welcome to the channel. We're just on a break. Hey, Brian Smith, good to see you. We got 15 seconds. Thank you for everybody coming on in. Thank you to our donators tonight. Andrew, Chad, Ed, J1. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 on Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to remind you that if you miss most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Go to our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Instagram @SpacedOutRadio Show. We continue on tonight with Timothy Renner. StrangeFamiliars.com is his podcast site, where he gets into a bunch of weird, strange stories. He's one of the best researchers that I think is in North America. I think we're very proud to have him here. Timothy, welcome back.
Thanks again for having me. I love Spaced Out Radio.
You're way too kind. Way too kind on that one. And your good friend and a good friend of ours, Joshua Cutchin. We should give him a shout-out, too, because you guys have written some great books together.
Yeah, we did too, and there's a talk of maybe getting the band back together at some point. We'll see. He's got his next book he's working hard on. I've got a couple in the works myself, and we'll see about down the line maybe.
Well, I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. I want to start off with some questions from our audience, because we always like to get the audience involved here right off the bat. And I think it's a good thing for us to do. And let's go with Stu Gerson here over in the UK. What are your thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch and what's happening over there?
Well, these window areas, they pop up, and I think people are fascinated with it because it was a wonderful book written about it, and the research there has been really, really interesting. A lot of interesting stuff that can be applied to other research, I think. For instance, they could not get stuff on film, down to the camera wires being cut, and I think there's something about this phenomenon. My friend Tobe from Strangebrow said it best, and I steal his line all the time. It's almost like we're not allowed to take pictures. We're allowed to record audio. It's almost like we're not allowed to film or take pictures, and that's why so many come out blurry or inconclusive and so forth. But Skinwalker in general, it's a window area, so a lot of things are happening there. Man, I think these window areas exist in other places. They might be smaller, but I kind of make that my mission is to kind of find them. And I think I found a few. I think Toad Road in my own county is one. And I think there's another area I'm writing about that's in Gettysburg that I believe is another one of these areas. So whenever a lot of weird stuff pops up in one area, I think it's worth noting. So, Skinwalker, I just think it's a window area for this weirdness. Again, what it is, I can't tell you, but a lot of strange stuff happens there, and there's been a lot of good documentation of it.
Do you think there's a lot of Skinwalker ranches around that we just don't know about?
I think there's more than people think. Yeah, absolutely. And, part of it is because there hasn't been an intense study of many of these places. Even at Skinwalker Ranch, they'll tell you, long periods of time can go by where nothing weird happens. But then something weird will happen. And say you were there the day that you saw a UFO, but not the day that the wolf people came, or the dog smoking cigarettes, or whatever it was that they saw there. If you were there the day the UFO came, you'd say, oh, I saw a UFO there. That's a place for UFOs. If you were there the day that Sasquatch came, you'd say, oh, that's a Bigfoot place. But it's the long-term study of the place that it's kind of determined that it's this window area where all these things are happening. I think it happens. There's a lot more of those places than people think. It's just that maybe somebody's passing through and they see a UFO, and that's the only story you get.
Philip wants to know if you know anything about the Yakima window area. I'm going to assume that's in Washington State.
I do not. It's the first I'm hearing of it, I think.
Yeah, that's the first I'm hearing about it. And Elaine is asking, how did Familiars get the name?
So my band, Stone Breath, the first record was called Strange Familiars. And I love the name so much, like, Strange Familiars, like a witch's familiar and strange. I loved it. And even at the time, I thought I should probably just call the band this, because I like that name so much. But we were already releasing stuff under the name Stone Breath. But I put it in the back of my head, one day I will use this for something else. In the meantime, other bands popped up. I'm not saying, they didn't come up with the name originally, but, after I did my record, there were some other bands with variants of that name that came up. And then I really thought, I really want to use that name again. And then when I decided to do a podcast, I thought, well, there you go. I can use that name again. So it's, sort of a play on words, and, the strange, the familiar, and also the play on the sort of witches familiar idea.
All right, I want to get into some of these stories of these monsters that you have covered over the years, and you've done a lot of Sasquatch. Do you have a favorite Sasquatch story that just kind of blows your mind?
Yeah, my favorite one that I've collected was a guest that came on the show. He was from Washington State, named Gage. If you're listening, Gage, hey. He told a story, and it's absolutely my favorite encounter because it kind of embodies so much of this stuff to me. So he was in the woods as a young kid. I think he said he was around 10 years old, with two of his friends, and they played in the woods every day. And this one day, they were walking down the path, and he said something just didn't feel right. And they came upon this tree that was a big tree that was kind of knocked down over the path, and they looked up, and he saw a great big black Sasquatch in the tree. And he said he got the feeling that it was a great big white Sasquatch he saw in the tree. And he said he got the feeling that it was there to sort of protect them, that there was something further down the trail that they didn't want to see, or didn't wasn't for them. He didn't know if it was like a mountain lion, or if there was a person up to no good down there, or whatever it was. But he got the feeling that this creature was, it was scary to him, but it was scary in almost a protective way. It was saying, like, don't go any further. So they turned around and ran. And he said for years they called this thing the Beast, he and his friends. And they grew up and kind of parted ways, and he got interested in Bigfoot later in life and tracked these guys down, both of his friends from the neighborhood. And he says to them, he finds the one, and the one kid didn't see anything. So I didn't see anything that day. So he finds the other guy, and the other guy said, oh yeah, I saw that big black creature that came out of the tree, and it was scary, and it was evil. And to me, it's such a beautiful Bigfoot sighting, because here we have two witnesses. One sees a white Sasquatch, thought it was a very, essentially a positive thing, protecting them, telling them to get out of the woods because something isn't here for them. The other kid sees this big black Sasquatch come down out of the tree. It was pure evil to him. It was absolutely, completely evil. So, that is my favorite encounter by far. And the third kid not seeing anything at all. It's just, embodies again so much of the Bigfoot mystery.
All right, let's get back to audience questions. Spectral Elitism is asking, Tim, what's your opinion on what's happening in the Chestnut Ridge?
Again, probably in another window area. Stuff's been going on there for many years, at least since the late 60s, early 70s. I've not been. I'm going to go out that way. Maybe I'll hit it. I have an event in Morgantown, West Virginia, so I might hit the Chestnut Ridge when I go out that way for that. But, I think it's a very interesting place from everything I've read about it, and I can't wait to get there and hike it.
Watch out for the trolls. Race Fan is asking, Tim, do you have an opinion about these anomalous stairs in the woods, these staircases that just appear out of nowhere? And people say when they've seen them, you never are supposed to climb them to the top.
Yeah. So I think, somebody did a deep dive on this and then said it was like a creepypasta or something from Reddit, and it wasn't true. And then other people said that, no, I've seen him, it is true, and so forth. And, if you remember, Slender Man started out as a creepypasta too, and then people started reporting this entity, seeing it. So I think things can kind of jump from these tales. In fact, I know they can. I'm one of the things I'm working on now is a place that has ghost stories that they do not historically fit. It's a place supposedly 3 Confederate soldiers were hanged there, and people see these apparitions, but history does not bear that out. It just simply isn't the case. So if people are seeing these apparitions, what's going on there? So I believe these things can jump from stories into some kind of thing. Now it's just the other, it's just the paranormal kind of picking our brain and using these stories to sort of manifest things. So I half wonder if that's not what happened with these staircases in the woods, because like I said early on, some people kind of debunked it and said, no, I just made up those stories. But here lately, I'm seeing more and more stories of people talking about them. So I wonder if it's not one of those things that started as just a story and has jumped into the paranormal.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Dave, who is asking to tell the story about an apport that you had with Toby. And who is Toby right off the bat?
It's Tobe from Strange Brow Radio. As I already mentioned him, he does another podcast. He focuses on similar stuff, Bigfoot and paranormal stuff. So Tobe had been gifting with something, maybe Bigfoot, maybe not. And I had been doing the same, and we were both getting results. And I had this idea. I said to him, hey, why don't you send me some of the stuff that was left for you, that you feel was left for you. I'll send you some of the stuff that I feel was left for me, and we'll sort of re-gift them. We'll put them out and see what happens. So he sent me some stuff. I sent him some stuff. I think I sent him mostly bones because at that period, that's mostly what I was getting. And he sent me a number of things, different rocks and hagstones and little trinkets he thought he was left. But one was a cedar ball that he sent me. And so the idea was that I would put them someplace that I would check frequently and could report back to him. So I did not for the cedar ball. I took it to a place called Pandemonium, which is about 2 hours away from my house. And I wanted to leave something there. We set up a little gifting area. And I left the cedar ball among some other things that Tobe didn't give me. And had a very intense encounter there. I was woken up at 2:30 in the morning by wood knocks about maybe 50 yards from my tent. Very loud wood knocks that were answered by other wood knocks in another direction. Had something walk around our camp all night. Weird, owl sounds that weren't owls and screams and a number of things happened that night. Very, very harrowing night. When I was coming back from Pandemonium, and yeah, the place is literally called Pandemonium. That's the name of the town. When I was coming back from there, it's a ghost town. It's not a town. It's just nothing left anymore. Tobe texted me, and he said, "Do you still have that cedar ball?" And I kind of got worried because I was like, "Oh, does he want it back? What's the deal?" Like I left it 2 hours away, And I said, "Why, Tobe?" And he said, "Well, a cedar ball had just appeared outside my house. I think he had a washing machine out on a porch or something outside his house." And I said, I don't know where it is. I mean, I left it at this cemetery in Pandemonium. So I drove up back to Pandemonium. I think that was Monday or so, Sunday or Monday. He texted me, and that Friday I drove back, and the cedar ball was still there. So, was this a porting back and forth? I don't know, but it was very, very strange that the one thing I had left out at Pandemonium was the thing he asked for that same weekend, and the thing that appeared outside his house. But I do not know if that was an apport or just a really, really weird coincidence.
All right. Let's go to Gloria's question. She is asking, what is the most interesting or terrifying experience you have had?
That night at Pandemonium was, like I said, it was pretty harrowing to be woken up. I was with my buddy, Chad, who comes out and does a lot of the stuff with me. Poor Chad, he started out as just a guy who was interested in being a woodsman, and got screamed at by something and started talking to me, told me a story, and then I sort of drug him into all this weird stuff, and now he can't get out of it. He's addicted as well. But we were camping in this ghost town, and I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, wood knocks, right by my tent, and I could hear Chad snoring rather. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to have to do this myself. I'm alone. I didn't want to wake him up and be a coward and be like, Chad, wake up. So I thought, okay, I just man up, and it was pretty terrifying. But Chad eventually woke up and said, "Did you hear that?" I said, "Yeah, I've been hearing it for about 3 minutes." I recorded all this. Thankfully, you can actually in the stereo file, you can see the wood knock in one channel and you can see the answer in the other channel. Again, something walked around our camp all night. We heard screams, we heard owl sounds. In the morning, I had my pack hanging from a tree, and I reached around to untie it. It was hanging from paracord. I untied the paracord to get my pack down and twisted into the paracord, if you can imagine like a spiral spring, how you could twist it into something. So this old rusty spring had been twisted into the paracord, which, something with hands had to wind that into the paracord. So we looked in the back of this tree, and you could see through the ferns this path that something big had just come right into our camp, and apparently wound that onto the tree. If it was a person, they were mighty brave, because if we woke up while they were there, it wouldn't have been pretty. So I don't know what that was. Certainly sounds like Bigfoot from all the reports, but again, I didn't see anything. But that was a pretty harrowing night, pretty scary.
Solar Warden is asking if you know David Paulides, and if so, what are your thoughts on his missing 411 and Bigfoot work, the DNA testing he's done? Your thoughts?
I do not know him personally. I know I don't know. I think I've influenced him because he did a historical Bigfoot book after I did mine, and I think I influenced that book. Missing 411, very interesting. I think there's more than one thing going on. I don't know exactly what that is, but he casts a pretty broad net. I think some of his cases probably could be explained by natural things, but it's very interesting when you put them all together, and certainly some of them can't be explained. He's an excellent speaker. I've heard him speak, several times, and he's a compelling, excellent speaker. But I don't know what the answers are. The Bigfoot DNA, I think he was involved in Melba Ketchum's study, if I'm correct. I'm not sure if that's what they're referring to, or if he was involved in another study. So I'd have to get more information on what they're speaking there.
Horror Realm is asking about an event you took in Warrington, West Virginia.
I have an event in Morgantown, West Virginia, in August. It's called Cryptid Bash, August 7th or 8th. I forget which. I think it's the 7th. Yeah, August 7th. But I don't know of any other event there.
All right, sorry, Morgantown. That's what he was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about it.
Morgantown, West Virginia, August 7th. I think it's all day. There's going to be a number of people there. I think the Small Town Monsters folks are going to be there. Moth Boys podcast, Strange Familiars, a bunch of artists and so forth. I will be selling and signing my books and taking on drawing commissions as well. I'll do some cryptid drawings for people while I'm there.
All right. 11 wants to know, does Bigfoot like daisy chains? A friend of mine used to braid daisy chains as a child and would leave them in the woods. Years later, as an adult, she would find such chains when she was hiking.
Is it Bigfoot or is it, some kind of forest spirit? Are those two things the same? I don't know. I am not surprised by that at all. It's amazing. Like I said, this gifting stuff is amazing, and what you will find can be stunning sometimes. So for me, I had a run of finding skulls that was incredible. I collected skulls my entire life, and I found more skulls in the past 3 or 4 years than I did in my entire 50 years, 40 some years before that. So what is doing it? I don't, it's easy to say Bigfoot, but I don't know what's doing it, but it's certainly something that seems to be responsive to us if we are open to it.
We had a nickel change. As weird as that sounds, we had a nickel change. And at our gifting site, we had an encounter with two of the creatures back in 2018. And last year we decided to put a gifting site out there. And my friend Mark, his daughter, put out a 1960s Canadian nickel on a fallen, rotten log. And we went back there a week later. The nickel was gone. So, thinking logically, could be a pack rat, could be a squirrel, or anything that likes shiny objects, a crow, a raven. Problem was, the following week, we had a 2019 nickel show up on one of our toys.
Yep.
And
yeah, that kind of stuff it's fantastic. How does this happen? I don't know, but that kind of stuff happens so much. And to me, it's so much fun. It's wonderful. It's thrilling.
Well, if I'm just trying to pull it up here for our YouTube audience, okay? And if you look at it, hopefully we can get that clear. If you look at it there, okay, and I'm just going to zoom in here. Bear with me. Let's just go like that. If you look at the nickel there, it is sitting on a little round ball that is sticking out of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And Bob McGuire, who's a good scientist, friend of this show, he said to me, he goes, Dave, you're forgetting the logic here. And because I'm trying to be, understanding and thoughtful of everything that kind of goes along with it. And he said, a human is always going to put something in a safe place.
Mm.
They are not going to put something where on that ball, because it was right on top, that nickel could have been knocked off by a tree branch. It could have been knocked off by a gust of wind, rain, hail, sleet, snow, anything that rubs up against it, and yet there it is.
That's really, really interesting you say that. That cedar ball I was talking about before, we had placed it at night, and in the morning we checked it before we left. And I had put it on a rock wall that surrounded this little old cemetery from this ghost town. And when we checked it in the morning, it was on the very edge of this rock. Like, very, very edge, way out on the edge, just like barely balanced there. And that's not where I left it. Could a squirrel have pushed it out there? Maybe, I don't know. But it's very interesting that you said that.
Well, on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, and we will get to audience questions when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Timothy Renner is our guest tonight. We have him for another hour on this show. And, of course, we'll continue with your questions and learn a bunch more of Tim's strange stories. You can check out his podcast at strangefamiliars.com. I highly recommend it if you want good intel, good information. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear. That's good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That how it was balanced on that ball like that. That's because I had noted the position of that cedar ball, but I didn't think about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. People do tend to they would put it in a safe place where it would be well balanced.
See where the basketball is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a little rubber basketball about this big that you buy at the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
Following week, we go back, and where is it here? And the ball is right there. But here's the interesting part. Old Davy picks up the ball, and there happens to be...
Oh, what's that?
What do you think it is?
Is it some kind of handprint?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. How big was that?
I don't know. I do know. I'll give you another look at it there. Let me just get it out. Let me get it focused in there.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So the interesting part about that is it was greasy, Tim.
Oh, that tracks.
It was very, very greasy. And my phone slipped in my hand, and you know when you kind of pull things to you? I pulled the basketball to my chest right after I took that photo, and that grease rubbed on my jacket. Like it wasn't dirt, like you could tell dirt. You know what I'm saying? You could tell dirt. You can tell anything like that. But it was weird, man, because it didn't feel right. It felt greasy, like watery type grease, if that makes any sense.
No, that tracks. There's a lot of people who have like handprints on their windshield or on their car and stuff. They always say it's got that sort of greasy quality to it. I had a friend who stopped in Fouke, Arkansas, and didn't notice until he was driving out of Fouke. He knew some people there. He stopped by their house for stayed the night and just was on a road trip and drove out from there, and didn't notice until he was driving away in the morning. There was a big greasy handprint right across his windshield. Huge handprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love for that to happen. I'd love for that. We want to welcome in Eric with a K. And people, we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show out there. We are number 4, and we are proud. At one point, we were number 2. Then we dropped to 3. Then we dropped to 4. Then 5. But now we're back up to 4. And we love being at number 4. We're number 4. Thank you, Eric with a K. We love you, man. All right. I got the questions stopped here, so just waiting for all that to come in.
Trying to find this story. The person's asking about Sasquatch in the fairy realm. I'm trying to find the actual newspaper article that.
I've decided that keeping cold tonight, probably during the next break, I will re-water my hair. Just to make sure.
Is this of... Okay, I think I found it here.
Cool, we got 1 minute. All right, a big thank you to the super chatters tonight. We really do appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. If you're brand new here, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. We'd really appreciate it because we are here 7 days a week, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Here we go, everyone. More Timothy Renner. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. Hang on out with us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with our good friend Timothy Renner here tonight. Strangefamiliars.com is his website, and we're taking audience questions about weird, strange stories. Timothy, welcome back.
Always great to be here.
Philip is asking about your thoughts on Sasquatch in the fairy realm.
Well, like I said, I think our ancestors talked about these things. They just used different names. And I tracked down an article from Oregon, May 25th, 1857. This appeared in an Oregon newspaper. It was the Weekly Oregon Statesman. It was June 9th that the article was published, but it occurred on May 25th. The story occurred. And it involves a kid who was out camping. It's a long article, so I'm just going to hit the high points here for you. And he heard a sound. He was out, I think he was doing logging work, he lost some cattle, and he was trapping his father, I believe, trapping these cattle in the woods. And at midnight, the boy was awakened by a loud plaintive cry that appeared to emanate from a human being in distress. Not far distance from the spot he reclaimed.
Hey, Tim, we're getting some bad audio off you right now. We seem to be hitting a slow patch here on your end on the camera.
Okay,
I think we're catching up here. So I'll get you to just read that again if you don't mind. See if we can come in clear.
Okay. So, the boy's out looking for the cattle, spends the night in the woods. So towards midnight, the boy was awakened by a loud plaintive cry that appeared to emanate from a human being in distress, not far distant from the spot where he reclined. Springing to his feet with alacrity and without disturbing his companion, he approached the spot from whence proceeded this, to him, singularly forlorn outcry. He had not advanced many steps, however, when he observed an object approaching him that appeared like a man, about 12 or 15 feet high, of athletic proportions, with glaring eyes which had the appearance of liquid balls of fire. The monster drew near the boy, who was unable from fright to move a single step. Seizing him by the arm, dragged him forcibly away towards the mountains. So this creature, what we would call Bigfoot now, they called him a wild man back then, drags the kid, carries him for several miles. Eventually, they stop, and the wild man reclines upon a log, gives a shriek, terrific and prolonged, the reverberations of which seemed to continue for the space of 5 minutes. Immediately after, the earth opened at their feet, as if a trap door, ingeniously contrived, had been raised. Entering at once the subterranean abode by a ladder, rudely constructed of hazel, they proceeded downward. Perhaps 150 or 200 feet, when they reached the bottom of a vast cave, which was brilliantly illuminated with a peculiar phosphorescent light, and water trickled from the sides of the cave in minute jets, the appearance of which was indeed singular. Above, the cave seemed slightly arched, the ceiling apparently composed of seashells of every conceivable shape and color. The bottom was, or appeared to be, thickly strewn with the bones of many kinds of animals, the sight of which impressed our hero with a fearful presentiment of his own impending fate. As our hero thus closely observed the interior of this awful cave, the wild man left him, as if instinctively called away before partaking of his midnight repast of roasted boy. Presently the huge monster returned by a side door, leading gently by the hand a young and delicate female of almost miraculous grace and beauty, who had doubtless been immured in this dreadful dungeon for years. As they approached our hero, the young lady fell upon her knees, and in some unknown language, in plaintive accents, seemed to plead for the privilege of remaining forever in the cave of the wild man. This singular conduct caused our hero to imagine that the wild man, conscience-stricken, had resolved to set to liberty his lovely victim, by placing her in a cave, by placing her in charge of our hero, whom he evidently captured for that purpose. As this thought passed through the mind of our hero, his ears were greeted with the strains of a most unearthly music, which came from the innermost recesses of the cave. The wild man wept piteously as he listened to the sweet voice of the charmer, commingled with the wild music, and sobbing like a child, his handkerchief moist with grief, he raised her very carefully from her recumbent posture, and led her gently away as they had come. A moment afterwards the damsel returned alone, and advancing towards our hero with ladylike modesty and grace, placed in his hand a beautifully embossed card, upon which appeared the following words, traced in the most exquisite hand, evidently by the lady's own. "Boy, depart hence forthwith, or remain and be devoured." Our hero looked up, but the lady had vanished. However, he acted at once upon the hint implied upon these words, and commenced retracing his steps towards the ladder of hazelbrush, which he shortly reached, and commenced the ascent. Upon arriving at the top, his horror may be imagined when he found the aperture closed. The cold sweat stood in his brow. His frame quivered with mental agony, when after a moment he bethought himself of a small Barlow knife, a present from a near relative. He carried this in his pocket, with which he instantly commenced picking the earth, being careful not to cut too near the spot where the ladder was made fast, for fear of precipitating himself to the bottom of the cave. After laboring in this manner a short time, he was rejoiced to see the daylight and through the earth. He was not much longer in working a hole large enough to which he was able to crawl, etc., etc. He gets free, returns to his family, and tells this story. If you are familiar with fairy accounts, people who go to fairyland, this is, almost a one-to-one comparison of fairyland. The beautiful singing, the female that's there that cannot leave, that tells him to leave. It sounds really like one of these Irish fairy stories. So I think there's a definite connection there. If this wasn't a true story, if this was just something the person made up, they must have been very, very familiar with fairy folklore.
No kidding. That is creepy in a way. Very creepy. I don't know how I would feel about seeing little fairy-type creatures running around a forest.
Yeah, I mean, it's they are. I don't know. I've heard that if you see Bigfoot, maybe go the other way. But if you see the little ones, you're supposed to run. I don't know. I don't know what to make of them. I know I've taken many sightings of people who've seen the little hairy ones, and they're just as upset and affected by it as Bigfoot witnesses are.
No kidding. Let's get to another question here. As B. Hoff is asking, are them big feet omnivores, carnivores, or vegans?
From all reports, they are omnivores. People have seen them hunting, eating meat, and of course eating, vegetables from people's gardens and whatever they find in the forest. So yeah, they're from all reports, they are omnivores.
Have you ever encountered any type of information of what they are eating? Like, is it mainly fish? Is it deer? Is it feral hogs? Rats? What do you think they're eating?
If they're natural creatures, they're eating every possible thing they can get their hands on, because if mountain gorillas, for instance, had a brain the size of humans, they simply wouldn't have enough time in the day to get the calories they need to feed themselves. We do not have to eat constantly because we process our food generally. I know some people don't. Some people are raw vegans and they don't process anything. But generally, we process our food, we cook it, and lets us get the most out of the calories. Easier to digest, etc. If Bigfoot is a natural creature, the caloric intake would be insane. It would have to be eating constantly, and it would have to eat anything it could.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Angela, who is new to our chat room, is asking, the Michaud State Forest borders my property, nothing but forest behind me. Have you had any sightings in the Buchanan Valley area?
I'd have to get out my Michaud map. I can tell you Michaud is the place in Pennsylvania if somebody tells me they want to see Bigfoot or they want to go out looking for Bigfoot, that's where I'd point them. That is the place in Pennsylvania. A number of sightings have come from there. I've talked to many witnesses. It's I've been out there many times myself. I love Michaud. It's a wonderful place, and I definitely think something's there. But I'm not familiar offhand with Buchanan Valley. I'd have to look at my map.
So what makes that area so special, Tim? Is it just the perfect atmosphere, from everything from streams and lakes to a lot of hidden forest area?
I don't know. This is one question that we're trying to figure out, because most of Michaud is, second or even third growth forest. The area was pretty much stripped down at some point for mining. They had a lot of iron furnaces there, and they had cut the most of the trees to make charcoal. They had trains coming up through there that would throw sparks, and those that they didn't cut down often burned down. So the area was pretty stripped bare in the 1800s, and has since grown back up, and since it's become a state forest. So I half wonder if it's not to do with all that went on there before, and it's sort of haunted in a way. This gets into deep theory about iron and the paranormal and so forth, but I do have many encounters with paranormal things around these old iron furnaces.
All right. Let's go to Jennifer, who is asking, any sightings you've studied in the Ozarks?
I have not. It's really just a matter of, I get so many in Pennsylvania that most of my time is here, as far as, doing boots on the ground research. I don't know that I've gotten any calls for strange familiars from there, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. And eventually I want to do these historic Bigfoot books for the whole country. I've done Pennsylvania and the West Coast so far, California, Oregon, and Washington State. Eventually I'm going to do the whole country, so I'm sure I'll dig some stuff up when it comes to hit the Ozark area then.
Don't forget Canada.
I'm going to do Canada as well, but that's going to be a whole other monster.
When you do, old Davey will help you with that one.
All right.
I know people. I got some pull here,
All right.
in regards to that. And, Gloria here wants to ask, do different creatures own different areas of the country?
By that I mean, I assume you mean like I'm imagining one of those cryptid maps that has like the Dover Demon, and then the New Jersey Devil, and all these different cryptids from these different areas. The Jersey Devil is seen most often in New Jersey, but I have historic reports in the newspaper from Maryland where people were reporting it. So, I think these are generalities. Bigfoot is seen, has been seen in, I think, every state, including, people say, except Hawaii, but I have a wild man report. I collected it from an old newspaper from Hawaii, so there was at least a wild man in Hawaii at some point in the 1800s, I believe. So, I think these creatures don't observe our state lines. If the Jersey Devil wants to cross into Maryland, it's going to do so. But I think they probably do have these general areas where they are seen more. Obviously, the sightings bear that out.
I love this question from Magnus here, who is asking, what's your thoughts on recent dogman activity in Pennsylvania?
My thoughts on dogman in general, I think I upset people because I say we have a perfectly good name for dogman that we've had for hundreds of years, and that is werewolf. And people say, oh, but werewolf is a human that transforms into a wolf creature. Well, we don't know what dogman is. You're assuming that dogman is a natural creature that has a breeding population, which I think is even less likely than Sasquatch having a breeding population. It's something other, as far as I'm concerned. I think, well, I know for a fact that some of these Dogman reports are Sasquatch reports that over anxious investigators are turning into Dogman reports because it is seen as the new big baddie. He's badder and meaner and eviler than Sasquatch. So I think they're looking for some Dogman reports, and I reported one because it was told to me as a Dogman, from this investigator, it's a Dogman account, and published it. And the witness was very upset and contacted me and said, I didn't say I was a Dogman. It was nothing of the sort, and pretty much laid out that it was a Sasquatch, which he described to me. So I know for a fact that some investigators are, doing that. I think, some witnesses may be doing that as well. So, I don't know what's going on with all of them. I do believe that some of them are I believe witnesses when they say what they saw. I have to. It's part of the deal with doing this kind of thing. So I do believe, people are seeing it, but, I don't know what to make of them. I definitely don't think there's a breeding population.
All right. Tim, we focus a lot on Bigfoot. We focus a lot on Dogman. The characters and the creatures that I like are the obscure ones out there. Whether it's the frogmen of Ohio, whether it's the trolls that live in the Chestnut Ridge, or the puckwedgies of the, what's that? The black something triangle up in Massachusetts. Bridgewater, sorry. Or, these monsters that seem to be hanging out in the Alaskan Triangle. I mean, there's so many little weird creatures out there that catch the attention of my own mind and wondering about their existence. What creatures do you have in your mind that don't get enough coverage?
I think probably the little people in general that we have. Again, our local one we call the Albatwitch. By the way, that puckwudgie, the first use of that term, I believe, east of the Ohio River, I found in a folklore book from Maryland, from the 1860s. So that name has been in use for. It actually comes from further west, I believe, than that. But that I believe that's the first use of that term was in Maryland in the 1860s, referring to these little hairy things that they see along the Susquehanna River, which we call Albatwitch in Pennsylvania. So it's definitely those. Let's see. That's probably my go-to because my heart's kind of there because I love those little people sightings locally. There's some neat. There's definitely some neat ones, and I'm completely drawing a blank right now, and I'm sorry. So we're going to go with the Albatwitch, the little people.
Around here, we have the little people as well. And our local First Nations elders, I've had a conversation with a couple of them about it, and they say that they are very real and they are high tricksters in our area. And so much so, a friend of mine, Mike, is not listening tonight, but that's okay. He was actually hunting one day in this gravel pit. He was hunting grouse and rabbits. And he gets out of his vehicle. He's looking around the ground for any type of fresh footprints. And all of a sudden, he hears my voice. Mike, come in here. Help me. Help me.
Wow.
Mike, come in here. Help me. And he said it wasn't coming from any direction. It was all around him.
Wow.
And I said to him point blank, I said, Mike, I'm glad you didn't go because I don't think you would have came back.
Maybe not.
I don't think you would have. And anyways, I ended up telling this story to one of the local elders here because if there's anything strange like that goes on, Tim, I really like to ask the elders first and foremost because they've been with the land for so many decades. And he said, because the first thing I said was, I know that both the Wendigo and skinwalkers are known to do that, to try and lure people in. But he said we've never had any reports of those in our area. He was adamant that it was the little people trying to call him in there, and likely they would have taken him.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story, and again one that tracks with things I've heard. Our local one is very tricksterish. It's known to throw apples at people, steal apples, and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I love those stories. Absolutely love them.
Yeah, that one trips me out because I've been in that area. I know that area like the back of my hand, and I want to investigate. I want to grab a trailer and go sleep there overnight and see what happens.
So we have a little festival we do here every year called Albatwitch Day, and I was in the newspaper talking about that. You know, that's our local name for the hairy little people. And I was there had my stand at the event, and this guy came up, and he was with his daughter. He's holding the newspaper article, and he was asking for me. He says, "Where's this guy?" And they pointed him to me. And he lives in my town. He lives in the same town I live in. And he said, I've seen this thing 2 times in my life. He said, I didn't know what they were. And he didn't really want to talk much about it, but his daughter was kind of prodding him, said, talk to him. And finally got the guy to tell his story. And he said he saw it once when he was young with his brother. And it was in a field. And he said his brother walked right up to it. And he said it was so strange. The thing had its eyes closed tight. Like it was like a little kid who had their eyes closed tight. Like, you can't see me. You know, my eyes are closed. And he said that's what the creature was doing. Like, just standing there still with its eyes like closed tight. He said his brother walked right up to it. And he finally yelled at his brother, like, run, get away from that. And never knew what it was. And then years later, as an adult, he was driving his truck. And he saw one cross the road in front of his truck. Now, you know, this is a town. We're not far out in the wilderness. And he's seen it twice. And then Lon Strickler took a report of another woman who saw it on the same road that this guy said he saw it on. And this woman observed it for, you know, several minutes one day, running across a construction site, I think she said. And, you know, so it's so strange that people are seeing this, you know, essentially, you know, right outside of town. There's not a ton of woods there. And, you know, we get other reports along the river and stuff. And the more we hold this festival, the more reports we get. People come and tell us stories. You know, yeah, I've seen this thing. So it's amazing. And, you know, I think a lot of people say, oh, it's just a young Bigfoot. But they're never seen with adults. They're not seen with adults. And they're very thin. They don't have that same build. You know, I think this is something else. I don't think it's Bigfoot.
One of my First Nations friends here, he actually had the little people in his house, and they were stealing his mother's jewelry. So I had asked him one night, I said, so what are you up to tonight? He goes, I'm making trinkets. I said, why are you making trinkets? And he kind of looks around, and he goes, the little people have been stealing my mother's jewelry, and, you know, we're trying to get it back.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. I said, well, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm making some hats. I'm making some pants. I'm making some jewelry for them. And the theory is, if you have something to exchange as a peace offering, they will return the previous taking.
Wow.
And so what they do is they take the plates and they put an offering plate up, and they took it upstairs, and then they close the doors, and they run back downstairs, and all of a sudden they would hear pitter-patter of little feet running upstairs, and they'd hear some running around, and a little bit later, they go upstairs after everything goes quiet. Mom's jewelry is sitting on the plate, and all of his trinkets are gone.
This sounds so much like fairy stories you hear from Ireland or Scotland too. I mean, it's, you know, it's so similar. It's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, I love stories like that. And you know what? It's sad, Tim, and I'll leave it with a little bit of a commentary, so we've got about 20 seconds. It's sad, Tim, that the majority of us out there who are in the research land or podcasting land, that we don't seriously take First Nations or American Indian stories as seriously as we should, because I really do believe if we opened our eyes to it, we could probably find a hell of a lot more answers than what we got today, because it's an important part of the research. Timothy Renner is here. We have him for another 30 minutes. His website, strangefamiliars.com. We'll be back with the start of hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio next. All right, Tim, I'm going to run my dogs out one more time. I'm going to put your mic on mute, and I'll be right back, okay?
All righty.
All right, brother. I am back. Let me get my headphones back on here. And then I can unmute you here. All right. Hi, Nine Tails Foxtrot. Yes, we are on break right now for the radio side of everything. Jeff, thank you for that awesome super chat. Really appreciate that. That's awesome, man. Thank you. Love your support of our show, man.
Kira was asking about the name Albatwitch. It's a German name, actually. Alb is German for elf, and Entwitchen is a German verb that means to sort of escape in a gliding fashion, which is very appropriate for the reports of how these things move. So that's actually Albatwitch. It's not anything to do with a witch.
2 seconds. Sorry about that. All right. Grandmaster, I don't know much about Native American legend. When the elders speak, I listen. That's about as easy as it gets. About as easy as it gets. So it just works that way. And some of the stories are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Big thank you to everyone who has donated in the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate the love and support of all of you. And thank you so much for supporting what we do. Thank you to all our brand new subscribers and everybody who's new to our chat room. And, of course, all the veterans out there who are here nightly. We really do appreciate each one of you. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go, kicking off the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Veridigenous. Veridigenous is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest, Timothy Renner. He is with us, and we are talking everything about monsters. We got him for another 30 minutes, and people in our chat rooms are asking questions of Tim, and we're going to continue on with that because we absolutely love getting the audience participation in here. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back.
I love Spaced Out Radio.
We should give a quick shout out to your website, strangefamiliars.com. And we're going to start with Glenn's question. Tim, have you heard of the YouTuber How to Hunt, Steve Ishdahl, who gets Bigfoot email stories that he shares?
I have. I think I've maybe watched a couple of them.
We've had Steve on this show. We were his first ever big interview. And I love the guy. I think he's incredible. I've never had to do so much editing in my life. I mean, talk about a trucker mouth. No offense, Andrew, listening, and all the other truckers out there. But, yeah, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool, listening to him. But, that brings up a good point because Steve is very much he's anti-BFRO. He is someone who wants to believe the experiences of people who are seeing. He's worked closely with people like David Paulides. And, I'm just curious for you, when you hear someone has, who wants to believe all of the stories that are out there, how much testimony have you received over the years that you just look at and you're like, that can't be right. That can't be real.
So, I've seen some wacky stuff, but we're talking about a giant monkey man in the woods, and what we have, the best of what we have is witness testimony, which science doesn't love, but folklore adores it. And the interesting thing about witness testimony is when you look at these historical reports from the 1800s, and people are describing things, and then people nowadays are, a witness will come on a podcast and describe the same thing, before I ever published this report or any of these books on historical Bigfoot sightings. They weren't digging through. Yeah, I cannot believe they're digging through these newspapers. It takes me forever to find these wild man articles just so they could pull out some obscure detail about the behavior of the creature and report it, so their report is consistent with some, report from the 1800s in a newspaper. So it's the consistency of these witness reports is one of the things that convinced me that there's really something to this, that's consistent over hundreds of years. So, when a witness tells me they saw half a Sasquatch running down the road, just the legs or just the torso, I know a lot of people would like to throw that out, but to me, I got to take that witness at their word. If you're going to believe they saw a giant monkey man, you got to believe them when they say they only saw half of it.
Terminology out there on everything seems to really, to me, predict whether or not a person is serious about research or not. Whether, like around here we got a guy in BC who's chasing the monkey man. There's a bunch of people who are squatch this, squatch that. And I know Dr. John Bindernagel hated that term, and that's why we've got it banned on this show. I'm curious. I mean, for you, do you like all of the phonetics that kind of go along, or the terminology that goes along with this creature? Or do you think that we should just, if we want to be professional and get, some sort of credibility going, especially in the mainstream and with mainstream science, let's stop with the idiotic nicknames and let's just, go do some hardcore boots on the ground?
Well, if you notice, when I say something like giant monkey man, I'm doing it to sort of
I can tell that
the flesh and blood folks who do not want to hear any of the woo stuff along with it. In general, I tend to use two terms. I use Bigfoot or wild man. Bigfoot is our modern wild man. We have always had wild men. Every society on Earth has had wild men that have, lived in the wilds next to us. For as long as we've kept records, there's been wild men. So I tend to use those two terms. I will use Sasquatch occasionally because it's, just common parlance, but I tend to shy away from it because I know it's a sort of a modified First Nations word that isn't quite correct. So I think Bigfoot is easy, and that's generally what people know it by. But if somebody wants to call it Oma or whatever else they want to call it, I'm certainly okay with that. I don't know. I think these other names are kind of, like I said, I use it to kind of make fun of that idea that it's, it's something that people are only gonna believe when it's convenient for them to believe. So I kind of use, I'll say giant monkey or monkey man or something, but it's usually when I'm taking a shot at the flesh and blood folks.
I hear you there. Nicola wants to ask you a question, Tim. What is your thought as to why scientists are so against the paranormal? Example, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts.
Yeah, I don't know. Psi research is gaining some ground, and my co-author Josh Cutchin has done way more research on that than I have. But I will mention it because Josh speak on it several times, and there seems to be some really, really good research there. But in general, I think I think scientists are like anybody else. They don't want to be ridiculed. They want to be taken seriously, and I think there's a kind of mark on this stuff that they fear they won't be taken seriously unless they approach it from a complete I'm going to debunk this kind of angle.
All right, Dave Altman's in our chat room, and he's a good friend of this show. Little Davey Altman. He says hello to you.
I know Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, Dave's got good hair too, good solid hair. Jeff is wondering about white mass in the woods. Have you heard about this?
I don't know if it's the same thing we're talking about, but I've taken several reports now of people who see something that looks like an undulating, almost like a sheet or a towel or something. It's white and it's undulating, but it seems to have, it's not like something blowing, a bag or something blowing in the wind. It moves on its own and seems to have its own thought, or determination where it wants to go and so forth. In other words, it's not being blown by the wind. So if that's what you're talking about, I've heard about it. I've taken several stories and a couple more recently, interviews that I've done that I haven't published yet on the podcast. But I guess I'd have to know if that's the same thing that he's asking about.
All right. You did a show earlier this year on Strange Familiars about the Ripper, the Wendigo, and the end of the world. I got to ask you, what is the Ripper?
It was that was a story I was on pause because I had a MS attack. I had some medical issues, and my good friends who run Riverbend Comics took over the podcast for a week to give me a break. And they talked about 3 comics. One was based on Jack the Ripper. It's called From Hell. There was a movie about it too, but they were talking about the comic. So that was the Ripper. And then they talked about a comic based on the Wendigo, and then one based on some conspiracy about the end of the world, I think.
Are you a big fan of the Wendigo?
I'm very interested in it. I would not like to run into one if that is... Being a fan, I don't know. It seems like a pretty horrible creature, but it's very, very interesting. I love the stories.
Yeah, that's one of those ones I just would not want to run into. It just seems a little creepy for me.
Yeah, I mean, and depending on the stories you get, it's either this kind of withered, bony thing that's like out to eat human flesh, or it's a horrible, kind of large Bigfoot with the desire to attack, so either way, not something you probably want to run into in the woods.
No. Is there something that would keep you out of the woods, any of these creatures?
I got attacked by a rabid raccoon. It kept me out for a little while, but I'm back.
That's it? A rabid raccoon?
Rabies is a death sentence if you get it, and the vaccine doesn't take. And because of my immune suppressants I'm on, vaccines don't take. So if I get rabies, I'm dead.
Yeah, so, that would do it.
Yeah, that kept me out of the woods for a little while, but I'm back. I just had a little reset period. But no, I can't imagine what else would. I'm there to see this kind of stuff. Now, easy for me to say, having not seen one, that I know of. I've seen like flashes of things. But I will not say for sure, it was Sasquatch or anything like that.
Any creatures scare you?
I do not like those grays. I don't like them at all. They creep the heck out of me. More than Bigfoot, I do not like those gray aliens.
Oh, come on. What's wrong with a few grays here and there?
One day we'll talk abduction experiences, and I do not like them. I don't like them hovering over my bed. They can bother somebody else.
I know the feeling. I know exactly where you're going with that. Well, we could talk about that one off the air. B. Hoff is asking, have you ever collected any grease or organic material from any of these creatures?
I did not collect it, but one day I was in an area with a lot of reported Bigfoot activity, and I found a footprint along the side of the road. It was in pretty hard-packed mud, and I weigh over 200 pounds. I was jumping up and down and not making an impression in this mud at all. And there was this footprint there. It was a big, human-shaped footprint, but wider. It was big and wide, about 16 inches long. And I looked kind of in the direction where the footprint would have came from, and there's this kind of wake of leaves on the hill behind it. It looked like it's something big had come down the hill. Stepped in the mud on the side of the road. There was a little bridge. Right in the middle of the bridge, in the middle of the road, was a huge pile of scat. Just huge. And a number of people was like, why didn't you take it? What am I going to do with it? Like, I had nothing to do with that. I think I took some photos of it. I grew up on a farm. I can tell you it wasn't horse. It wasn't cow. It was, something other than that. But, what it was, I can't tell you. There were bugs in it. I kind of picked at it with a stick a little bit, trying to figure out what was going on with it. But I did not take a sample of it because, I really didn't. What am I going to do with it? And I think the day I bring home, poop samples and want to store them around the house is the day I get divorced.
You have a book called The Seven Gates of Hell.
Beyond the Seventh Gate, but yeah, it deals with that mystery. Yeah.
All right, tell us about that.
So it's a local legend. It was actually associated with a couple different places, but post-internet, it got associated with this area called Toad Road. That people say there's an insane asylum that was back there that burnt to the ground, and people put up 7 gates to keep people out, and supposedly no one makes it beyond the 7th gate. First of all, there's all this kind of speculation why it's called Toad Road. It was the tow path for the Cador's Creek, which is almost a river, but it needed barges. They needed to be towed at places where the water got low. So they made this tow path. So the tow road became Toad Road over time. It's just a little bit of whispering down the lane there. But this legend about the insane asylum is nonsense. There was never an insane asylum there, and so forth. But weird stuff did happen there, and I looked for my first book. I looked for people that were my age or older, people that would remember it, pre-internet, and I collected all the stories I could about that, and a lot of ghost stories reported there. But most of what was reported that people were attributing to ghosts sure sounded like cryptid activity. Things peeking from behind trees and glowing eyes and so forth. Things following people, pacing them through the woods, and like that. So there is weird stuff. Like I said, I think it's one of these window areas. I've taken so many reports of different things there. Dogmen, hyena-like dogmen, people reported there. Bigfoot. I've had some really, really strange experiences there. Found skulls in very strange circumstances a few times. UFOs, weird lights in the woods, all kinds of stuff reported there. So it's definitely a weird place, but the legend that you read on the internet about insane asylums and gates to hell and stuff is all complete nonsense.
Yet here we are, discussing it right now. I want to ask you, in regards to your own experiences and your own travels around trying to figure out what's going on, do you have an idea of what is truly going on? So, for instance, many people believe there is a tie between the paranormal, the supernatural, the cryptid world, the ghost world, the spirit world, UFOs.
I do think it's all connected. There's just too many similarities. The Class B Bigfoot encounter and your poltergeist accounts are, just 1-to-1, from the stones being thrown and being warm to the touch when people pick them up, to the weird, unknown languages, bad smells, you name it. It's just like a 1-to-1 comparison with the Class B Bigfoot experience and the poltergeist experience, the UFO abduction experience, and some of the weirder accounts of people seeing Bigfoot, and which the flesh and blood folks will attribute to infrasound. But we don't know that they have infrasound. This is just something that they use to try to explain the weirdness away. But these buzzing sounds that people hear sometimes, or the Oz effect where everything goes quiet and so forth, this is across the paranormal. So I do think it's all connected. How and why, I don't know. I think it's something to do with human experience, and again, the way we interact with the natural and supernatural world. There's something there to it, and it's using these channels in the same way, and maybe sometimes it manifests as a ghost, and sometimes it manifests as a UFO, and sometimes it's Bigfoot. I don't know, but they certainly all seem to be connected.
All right, let's go to Jeff's question. What are the black shadow masses with lights that people see in the woods?
Your guess is as good as mine. Again, I don't know if we're talking about like shadow people, or a lot of these Bigfoot reports. They'll say they're blacker than black. I took one witness who said, the face of this thing was so black that it looked like it was imploding. It looked like it was just, and that was almost the most terrifying thing to him when he looked at its face. He said it was so black, it just looked like it was imploding. I can't imagine what that would have been. But these blacker than black reports, I take a lot of them. But of course, when you take shadow people reports, people describe them the same way, blacker than the night around them. So it's really interesting. I assume it's one of or other of these things, if not some manifestation of both.
In British Columbia here, a lot of people will recognize or have encounters with blue orbs in the forest. And a lot of people believe that has to do with some sort of Bigfoot type activity. Have you ever encountered blue orbs?
I've seen blue lights. I've seen anomalous lights in the woods. I was talking about it on another podcast earlier. If you were to visit me in my area and you say, take me to someplace, I want to see something weird, I would take you to a place that we have code named Site 7. It's private property. So, sorry, I can't tell you where it is, but I would take you there. And chances are, if we went when the leaves were off the trees, you would see anomalous lights there. We have had very, very good luck seeing them again and again and again. They've been all manner of colors. That we've seen them change colors. We've hit them with lasers, and they've changed colors. At one point last summer or late spring, we decided, well, the leaves are up on the tree. We might not be able to see them. Let's hike into the woods where we generally see these lights during the day and just wait there until nightfall. We did this. In fact, I was there with a friend who was very skeptical of it. He was determined to debunk this. And we hiked in during daylight and just sat down. We're about the place where we see the lights and waited. And what we saw was pretty incredible. The lights actually came up to us. This guy who was so skeptical was on his knees trying to catch the lights, just laughing like unbelievably. He's like, I can't explain this. I don't know what this is. And really interesting thing is when he was on his knees, I know we were looking at the same one because we were describing him. We were talking about it as he saw it. He described it as a ping pong ball sized light that he was seeing right in front of him. I'm looking at the same light. To me, it looked like a pen light, an LED pen light, just a one single LED light. That's all it looked like to me. So I truly believe we were looking at the same thing, and both of us were seeing something different. Maybe now I was at a different angle. I was off to his side, about 6 feet away from him. So maybe it was the angle, but it seems to me like we should have seen the same thing, especially with it being that close. But really, really interesting. I've not seen the big orbs. I've seen in white, not in blue, or like a kind of like blue white light. Only once, I believe, I've seen the big orbs, like the ones that are like almost basketball sized, and that was when I was young. I saw them on the farm I lived on. I asked my mom what that is, and she answered very casually, "That's a will-o'-the-wisp." And I thought it was a natural phenomenon because she didn't make a big deal of it at all. Just mentioned it offhandedly and went about her business. And so I thought they had something to do with the willow trees we had on the farm for the longest time as a kid. I didn't know it was anything unusual. I just thought it was something that happened, like a lightning bug or something. She was just, "Oh, that's a will-o'-the-wisp." And that was that. So I have seen those, but the blue lights that I've seen at least have been more like, they look like LEDs, but they're out in the woods.
Tim, we got 30 seconds left with you. Tell everybody where they can find your podcast and your information.
Everything for me is at strangefamiliars.com. You'll find links to the podcast there. You'll find links to my Etsy shop. I just released a new Bigfoot print. It's my favorite print I've ever done. It's the cover of Where the Footprints End, Volume 2 that I did. So I have those, all manner of my books and stuff. All the links are there at strangefamiliars.com.
Wonderful. Tim, it's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. Truly, you are one of the best in my mind in North America. Keep up the great work in your research.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to join Vancouver, and we're going to join Shane in the Shift to talk some UFO disclosure. Then we got the Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. A jam-packed final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is next. Good job, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
We'll give you some clapping for that.
Thank you. All right, we good?
We're good, brother. You go get
All
some
right,
sleep.
I'm going to tap out.
All right, bro. Take care.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Timothy Renner, everybody. Good dude. Good dude right there. That's a guy who puts his pants on one leg at a time. You could tell. We're going to get a phone call from Vancouver here momentarily, and then we will be good to go. And let me just get a couple of news stories. Because I know we'll have time for one or two, maybe three. We'll put 4 up here just in case. There we go. That'll be good for news. Shirky Poo won't rip my head off this time. All right, there's Vancouver. Hey, Vancouver.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Are you ready to talk some UFOs?
Yes, we are, for sure. So, yeah, we'll be with you at 36, as always.
Perfect. Put you on mute. All right. There we are. We're going to talk UFOs with Vancouver and across Canada. Tomorrow night on the show, by the way, Mark Sims is going to join us, talk about his alien adventures. That's going to be kind of cool. Yes, going to be real cool. I look forward to that one. I do. Let me clean up all of this. Where are you guys? There you are. Hey, Super Quest, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. I missed a couple of questions. I do apologize for that. Nine Tails Foxtrot, welcome, and thank you for the compliment. Really do appreciate that. Remember, if you have a guest or a topic, you can get a hold of Dirty Filth at bookings@spacedoutradio.com or Alaska's Greatest Athlete at info@spacedoutradio.com. And like I said, if you have a guest request or if you have a topic that you want us to try and hear on the show, like we haven't done an NDE filth, we haven't done near-death experiences in a while. There was some talk about that in the chat room tonight. So I don't know if we can find somebody for that, but we will get to it. Try and track that down. Jeff, I'm a little busy right now, but send it to me on Facebook Messenger. Thank you, Nicola. Appreciate that. Yes, Shane from the Shift, he calls them UFOs. So I've kind of caught on to that lingo. I don't know why. I don't use it often. Only when he's coming up. Excuse me. Been a while since we've done a Dogman show. We should probably get on that. But I am going to forewarn everybody, like, for the next little bit here, while this whole UFO thing kind of goes a little crazy, we are going to have to focus a little bit on UFOs. I know that you kind of get sick of the topics night in and night out, but that is the big news, and the conundrum I get into as a host is I kind of have to go with what's popular and try to mix it up. But in the meantime, we still got to stay on the forefront because we don't want to lose the pace that we are on right now and lose the information. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't moments. So, but that's kind of where we are. Big thank you to everybody who donated in the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support our show on a nightly basis. And thank you to all of our new subscribers, our veterans who are listening to this show, and, of course, all of our chatters who are here nightly. We're going to get going here in 10 seconds. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button, and then we're going to go over to Vancouver, British Columbia, where they are sweating up a storm as well as all of us are here in British Columbia, and we're going to talk some UFOs. We're going to join Shane and The Shift, go right across Canada as we simulcast. Shane, how you doing, man?
Dave Scott, handsome devil that you are. How are you?
It's true. It's true. I can't even deny that, but thank you so much. We love it when we get to do this segment with you, my friend.
Absolutely. It's one of my absolute favorites. We love it. Dave Scott is a Shift family member here, and well, we teased it for a bunch of weeks, Dave. The UFO conversation, the unidentified aerial phenomena, something like a phenomena. Here we are. The info is out. Have we met any aliens yet?
No, and we're not going to meet any aliens whatsoever, because we're not allowed to talk aliens yet. We don't know where these craft are from. There's still a bunch of people in the Pentagon and around Congress in the United States who believe that this could be Russia, it could be China, and that's why we're going to continue hearing the word threat thrown around, because you know what happens when you have a threat? Money gets spent. Money gets allotted to more defense contracts to try and figure out what these UFOs or UAP are, but yet if you talk to everybody or listen to everybody who's talking about this, who has a flake of interest in this and holds some power in Washington, D.C., they're all speaking that they don't believe this phenomena is Russia, China, or even hidden technology from the American military. They believe that this is possibly something out of this world, but it's funny, they don't mention aliens. If it's out of this world, don't aliens have to be flying it? That's just my quirky question for the night.
Unless it's like alien IKEA, where they just assemble it and then send it our way.
Very true. Very true. So the report that came out, the preliminary assessment by the Department of National Intelligence, came out on Friday. And for people in the field of ufology, it was really blasé. We were hoping for more. I mean, this was a report that, top secret wise, was 78 pages long. The public got 9 pages, 1 title page, 2 pages of bibliography and appendix, 1 introduction page, and 4 pages of actual nothing. Basically saying, we need money. Now, the only interesting part that I really found out of it, there's a couple, is they only studied events from 2004 onward. They didn't want to go into anything in the past. So we didn't get Phoenix Lights. We didn't get Roswell. We got nothing from the past that has been the itch that the UFO community has been trying to scratch for decades. And it all started with the USS Nimitz incident back in 2004, and they kept it very military. They did not bring in any type of public sightings, and out of the 144 reports that they took, only 143 of them were unidentified. The one that they were able to identify, which I had a good laugh at, was a deflating weather balloon. Go figure. Roswell was apparently a deflating weather balloon. So I don't know about anybody else, but I found some humor in that.
That is funny. We were just talking about men who walk around locker rooms naked, so it took me back to that. Speaking of deflating. So in all of this conversation, I sort of hear two things. We can go two ways. We'll come back to the money. You figured that this was going to be the giant letdown of the decade for ufologists. That's sort of what your forecast was.
Yes.
Did you, unfortunately, sadly, get it right?
Yes, absolutely. But you have to realize the opinion that I have on it is much different than your audience or the people out there in the mainstream who are just starting to pay attention to this topic. Okay, so for the people in your audience and the people who are just paying attention, this was big news. It was a confirmation that there is some sort of phenomena going around, all right, and that we need to start paying attention. However, for us in the UFO community, we've heard all the stories before. We heard everything that came out of this. I mean, it's basically waiting for that really cool new bike on Christmas morning that Santa Claus is going to bring, and you get brown cord slacks.
Ooh, everyone loves cords, Dave.
I know. I went old school there.
It's very old school of you, that's for sure. Okay, so it's a letdown. The redacted part, all of it, just to be expected. Let's go back to the money thing, because the one thing that you and I really have in common, I think, is we both don't trust the government. And it seems so perfect to release something that scares the people enough to make constituents ask questions and say, we need to keep everybody safe now. That sounds an awful lot like politics, political theater, and self-preservation. Am I way off here?
I would say that they want money to try and build up the UAP task force and Space Force. They want to know what's going on, and they need funding. And when you bring up something that is unidentified, then you use the terms, we don't know what it is, we don't know where it's coming from, and then we use the terms that it could be Russia, it could be China, or a foreign adversary. That usually means an open checkbook is coming. And in the end, they want to know what it is. But you have to realize here, okay, there's a big game going on. There's a huge facade that is going right under the public's noses, and the public who hasn't paid attention to this story is missing out. And it's all because of the history of it all. All right? If we started looking into Roswell back in 1947, if we started looking into Shag Harbor in 1967, if we started looking into the Phoenix Lights in 1997, for some reason they always ended 7. I don't know why. All right? But if we started looking into these incidents, we would know that there is a lot of information that the military has that they aren't sharing. And what the military and the government of the United States, in my opinion, is trying to do is they are trying very hard to bring this topic to the forefront, but they're trying really hard not to open up Pandora's box to all the secrets they may be keeping. Because if they open up those doors, and let's just say hypothetically, they know who is being taken by aliens. All right? Let's figure it out. Let's just play that game for a second. Imagine how many people would go after the government on lawsuits knowing that the government knew they were being taken by extraterrestrials. I mean, if you take the Phoenix Lights, for instance, back on March 13th, 1997, where for over an hour, a couple of craft, one being what they figure is 1 mile to 2 miles in diameter, was seen by over 65,000 citizens. And Governor Fife Symington at the time, the next day, comes out and makes fun of his citizens by holding a national press conference, and he trots out an extraterrestrial in handcuffs saying sorry, and basically said, we got him, we know who it is, making fun of his citizens. That's what the history has been in the United States. The people are upset about that. And the unfortunate part about it is, between the mainstream media and the people not paying attention to this subject, it's really at the hands of the entire narrative of the U.S. government on what they want to show the public. And the media isn't even asking any questions regarding the history. They're sticking with the 2004 timeline that all of a sudden all of these things started happening with the USS Nimitz incident by Catalina Island in California.
I don't know, Dave. I wanted to find out something. Like, I wanted something, right? I mean, and the fact that you've just named my biggest, antagonist in this world, which is don't trust the government, it breaks my heart a little bit, buddy.
I know, but can I upset you even more?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Oh,
We
okay.
gotta call you up, and so what?
This is for the Canadian listeners and my audience and for your audience. We should be outraged. Because over the last 3 weeks, we've had the National Post, we've had CBC, and CTV all interview a gentleman named Luis Elizondo, who used to run the UFO program at the Pentagon. Okay? They all did exclusives with him. And did you know that those reporters not once ran anything to do with Canada and Canada's involvement with UFOs? If you're a Washington Bureau reporter making big money being in that slot as a journalist, and you are covering the Canadian side of the American story, why would you not ask about Canada? Why would you not ask about our CF-18 Hornets? Are they intercepting these craft? Is our Navy picking up craft while out on duty in the ocean of the Atlantic, the Arctic, or the Pacific? Why are we not asking questions? And why is, if the questions are being asked, why are they being left on the editor's table instead of being in that story and bringing it to the forefront to put some pressure on the politicians in Ottawa, namely Prime Minister Trudeau, for not answering the questions about UFOs? From what I have heard, Trudeau has been read in on this. Now, I will let this known on your show. I just let it known on my show. I have information from two different sources that back in 2019, the gentleman who replaced Lou Elizondo at the Pentagon actually met with one of our ambassadors about UFOs in late 2019 to debrief him. That ambassador, David McNaughton, then was flown back to Canada to debrief both Harjit Sajjan and Prime Minister Trudeau on this topic.
Oh, they've been busy.
Well, of course they have. Of course they have. But
why do you think that is? Because we've talked about this from a couple perspectives there, David. We've talked about it from the slide the info to the American military, and is it because of the fact that we don't want to deal with it, that we're somehow obligated to slide it off and not talk about it, or is it just, hush hush, because there is no Space Force military money that can create some drama in order to get more funding? Why do you think it is?
Well, if you go along the lines of Paul Hellyer, who's still very involved at 96 years old in Canadian politics, being part of the Privy Council, Canada has been in contact with two different extraterrestrial species, and there is a group that controls the Canadian UFO story. I've got that on email from Hellyer. All right? And we need to pay attention because Canada is very much in this game. The National Transportation Safety Board puts out the UFO reports. The public can check those out online. But the bigger story is what's happening with our military. What's happening at Cold Lake or Thunder Bay or Bagottville? What's happening on Vancouver Island at Comox, where a lot of these sightings seem to be taking place coming in off the Pacific Ocean? We need to be able to figure this out. And why has the Prime Minister been so quiet? I can tell you why. Because Canadian politics has always been the forefront of, if we're not asked it, it doesn't exist. And not a single member of the media has the cojones to ask the Prime Minister whether or not Canada has a role in the UFO program. We know they are in the know. They are part of the Big Five, which is the United States, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and France. And they all share UFO information. Why we are not getting that information to the public is, in my opinion, the fault of the media, who is talking about this topic, but they have yet to ask anybody in Ottawa why it is going on. And those in Ottawa don't have to even broach the subject. It's the media's fault, and it's our fault for not putting the pressure on.
So what about around the world, Dave? Is there any, you spoke. Ooh, that was a space.
That was a nice one.
You spoke. That's good. You've spoken about this many times, and around this topic, and it's very passionate to you. What about around the world? Do you have, Spaced Out Radio, do you guys have any examples of other countries that seem to be sharing the info? Because it's so American-centric.
Right.
And if there are aliens, it can't just be, aliens aren't coming to this country to, go to America. So is there anyone else in the world that's doing it better in your eyes? Absolutely.
Australia is coming out with their information. We've seen France recently come out. There are a number of European countries that are talking about this. China has now come out and said they have a UAP task force of their own looking into unidentified flying objects. All right, but everybody looks at the big dog. The big dog here is the United States. And considering what they spend on military technology, that's why everybody is looking towards the U.S. in order to break this story open. But the fact is, the U.S. can't do it without its allies. All right? They can't do it without their allies, and we need to make sure that we as a public start putting pressure on them. Harjit Sajjan needs to answer some questions. Prime Minister Trudeau needs to answer some questions. But shame on the Conservative Party of Canada for not coming out and bringing up this subject in question period when they have the ability to do so. They are the official opposition. Where is our militarized man in Aaron O'Toole standing up and saying, what do we know? Come on, Aaron. You were a helicopter pilot in the Canadian Armed Forces. Did you see anything? What about Stephen Harper? Stephen Harper worked closely with the U.S. during his time. Does he know? Why isn't he saying anything? President Obama is down south. That's what we need. Let's start opening up the conversation. It needs to be had.
It starts right here, spacedoutradio.com, if you want to check out Dave's stuff. Dave, thank you for helping us with the update. And I appreciate your passion on this, and I agree. I mean, the pressure's got to be there. The questions have to be asked, and I love that you're able to help us translate it for us who don't follow it so closely. As always, brother, thank you for being here.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the odd. How would you feel if this happened to you? A Baton Rouge, Louisiana family was surprised to find $50 billion mistakenly deposited into their account. Darren James found out about the $50 billion deposit through his wife, who frantically called him and told him to sit down before showing it to him. It's just crazy to see what it looks like, because I've never seen that many zeros in my life, James said. I wasn't going to keep it. The thing that was most baffling was we don't even know where it came from. We don't know anybody with that kind of money. James called the bank immediately to report the mistaken deposit and found out what happened. The family took screenshots to remember the once-in-a-lifetime error, and the bank reversed the mistake within 4 days. Recipients of mistaken bank deposits are not allowed to keep the money. Banks usually spot the error and reverse the transaction, and those who spend the money may face criminal charges for theft or property lost by mistake. And finally, Police in Australian state of New South Wales say they have levied fines against 2 nude beachgoers who had to be rescued after being spooked by a deer and running into a forest. The 2 men were breaking coronavirus lockdowns by sunbathing naked on a remote beach south of Sydney. Yeah, but their offense got worsened after being startled by a deer. And apparently this deer was so scary, they went off screaming into the Royal National Park and got lost. The 30-year-old and 49-year-old were fined $760 for breaking the COVID rules after authorities came to their rescue. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What makes you happy? Haunted History BC. Grateful to have left my day job last August and literally living the dream of writing historical research, diving into the paranormal. Spookles. Cats and kuokas. Jules. Everyone knows that true happiness comes from Dave's luscious hair. This is true. Very true. J-Rock. A nice THC gummy and a new Elizondo interview usually does it. Andrew, many things. Family, outdoors, learning, music, art, to name a few. Science Bob, friends and family when they are happy together. Eric with a K, we are his 4th favorite show. We're number 4. He says, searching for Bigfoot. Marilyn, hearing you at Spaced Out Radio and your late night music get-togethers. Oh, that's always fun. Thank you, Marilyn. Craig, helping people. Carl, every day I'm here to see that fat old sunrise. That's a beautiful thing. All right, Wiley, a good day fishing in the flying saucer. Anthony, being a dad. Josh, that the skeptics get angrier the further we get into the process of disclosure. We're going to leave it right there. Big thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire. Shane in the Shift, going right across Canada. And, of course, to Timothy Renner for being just an outstanding guest tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and everyone hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.